Welcome to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge, the podcast where Christine says fear, questions everything, and takes bold action. Christine Spratley is a former professional boxer, nanny, and 29-plus year corporate warrior turned founder of HBIC Advisors, where she is a public speaker and coach. She's been saying fear her whole life, many times without even realizing it. So tune in, spread the word, and get ready, because this isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell.
And welcome to Fuck Fear with Christine Spratley, living like a head bitch in charge in HBIC. Today, I'm actually really excited about, I think I say that a lot, but I am excited today. It may just be that I've been listening to some music on the way in, but no, it's actually, I'm going to have a series of these, and it's about kind of identity. We talk a lot in on this podcast about being fulfilled and what is fulfillment, how the fuck do you find it, and all of that stuff. And, you know, it's in personal life, and then in work, and then spiritual, and then physical. And so much of what I have come to understand about myself is a lot of my fulfillment has to do with my identity. And recently, I've been having conversations with my friends, both men and women, and then also in my coaching, I've been working with some women that are going through transition. Some are kind of in transition in jobs, and then some were doing coaching on their overall fulfillment plan, like who they are, what fulfills them, what goes on. But part of this has been about identity in that fulfillment and understanding what your identity is, who created it, as far as where are we getting that information from, and what do you want it to be? So today I'm going to kind of go through just an exercise about identity and one of the things that we do. So it's kind of like when you've ever moved somewhere, okay, and then things change. Like you have to drive down a new street, you have to find a new dry cleaners, like all of these things about your life. They're not your identity, but they're your norm, and they're your convenience, and who you kind of are in your daily life. And so much of what we think of identity as is this thing, but it's really who are we in our daily lives. So I kind of start off with this exercise with a lot of people, and it's 3 columns, first of all, and we're going to go through each one. But the first column is, what are the big identity columns? Like, what are you? When I say identity, what comes to your mind? Some people may say, I'm a mom, I am a businesswoman, I am a wife, I am, a daughter, I am all of these things, right? And then it's kind of like, so they list, I am the VP of such and such. I am, whatever it is, that how they see themselves. So one of the next things I kind of go is, okay, well, those are big, broad things, right? Those are big, broad categories. And how do you dive down into that? And so rather than ask them that, I go, tell me for each one of those, and call them 2 for each one. Let's go over. What actions do you do? What are you as a wife, as a mom? How much does this time, what are the things that you do, in your daily life? Because that's who you are, right? That's who you show up as. And what's funny is, as we're going through this, one of the reasons, and I'll kind of give you a sneak peek in this, but one of the reasons why is on that first list, in that first column, there's never a just me. I am me. It's, I am a wife. I am a mother. I am, I was a senior manager at Deloitte that did site selection and incentive negotiations. I was a negotiation of corporate projects and all of these other things. And it wasn't, I am this, I am Christine. What is that? Who is that? And it's interesting because when I say I am a mom, and I say I'm a wife, and I say I'm a businesswoman, and I say all these things, they're in relationship to others. And so that's why I kind of go through this exercises. I'm like, well, where are you? Well, I'm these things. Well, where are you? What's your identity within these things? Because there's a lot of moms. There's a lot of wives. There's a lot of daughters. Or Joe, in this case for you, you're a husband, you're a dad, you're a business owner, you are a producer, but where are you? And that's one of the reasons why I make the second column, which is, what do you do? What do you do? And we kind of go through that. And usually what happens is they start listing all the stuff. And I did this. I actually did this. And I would list, well, I do this at work and this, and then I started to have a conversation with them about column 3. I go, all right, in column 3, what about column 2 do you love? What's your little take on when you do this at work? What's that little spice you add in your pie that you make that no one else does? And that's what, like for me, I'll take work, for example. I had all these things that I did. I would manage a team. I would work with clients. I would negotiate incentive packages. I would speak to anybody from a governor to a construction guy, digging dirt, and I would go through this, but I had to dig deeper and go, well, what do you like about that? Like, what's your spice in that? What really do you like? So for me, my identity wasn't my job. My identity was, I love the puzzle. I love the puzzle. And I love going through the maze. And I could always do this because I love dealing with bureaucracy. I know that sounds so sick. But
you're like the only person to say that sentence.
Well, and thank God for Brett Pasquarelli. I think I've said this before, but Brett Pasquarelli, one of the guys that I dated down in Austin, Texas, very, very early on in my relationship I came back from the city and I was so pissed. I was like, they don't know what they're doing and they wouldn't give me this permit and blah, 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 blah. And he said, sometimes, Christine, you have to participate in their insanity. And that allowed me to be able to go, oh, okay, these guys are crazy and that's the game. But I enjoy, and the best way I can explain this is, remember, Joe, when you would get those puzzles on those, what were those books when we were little, the life books or the...
Oh, like at the dentist's office?
The dentist's office, or even like you get them in school and they were larger. They weren't books and you could do the puzzles in them and it had all of these phonetics, stuff. But they were all of these mazes.
I'm thinking highlights.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And they'd have the maze puzzle. Mm-hmm. I never started at the beginning. Ever. I always started at the end, like the center. And I would go, okay, back, okay. And so I love puzzles like that. So some people enjoy puzzles and they start at the beginning. So for me, bureaucracy was a big puzzle. And it had a lot of avenues you could go down and people that you could talk to that get you absolutely nowhere. And so for me, I would always start, okay, this is where I want to be. And I could work it back. And so I enjoyed finding the pathways. And it was interesting. I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed understanding the people around that. And that's what it gave me. So my identity, and kind of go into this a little bit more about in the next phase, my identity I thought was my job, right? And there was a lot of things caught up in that. Who I worked for, the name on the door, the income and all that. But really, when I started doing this for myself, I go, okay, what do you love? What do you really love about what you do as a mom, for me, a stepmom, as a wife? Now I'm single. So, but what did I love about that? And what can I take from that? And then from a job, because I don't do that job anymore. But I got on a phone call today with a gentleman and we were just talking and he was talking about their year ends coming up. And immediately my brain kicks in. my brain's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And June 30th year in. So they were doing budgets. And I said, so do you have a use it or lose it budget? If you don't use it by the end of June 30th, you're going to lose it for next year's budget. And, and we just started talking. And so my brain kicks in. It's that puzzle. It's that conversation. So I don't do that now on a daily basis. I don't negotiate land deals. I don't do any of that. But my identity is wrapped around what can I do with puzzles? And part of that is coaching, because it's a puzzle. And part of I'm getting ready to go on a marketing thing because it's fiscal year end for people. I want to go, hey, if you got budget and you need to get rid of it, let's sign me up for next year and pay me now. And so I get to do those things. And so what's interesting though is that when you look at what you love about what you do, that's part of you. That's the you part. It's not the them part. It's the you part. And one of the things that I really like about understanding identity is getting out of, this is what society has told me my identity is. I mean, this is what society has told me is, or defined, and taking that on and going down to really having the conversation with people about who you are. And it's sometimes, I know for me, I was so removed from who I was that it took me a long time. And I would start with, okay, what do I enjoy? What do I like about this? And then we'd go down deeper. And it's really interesting to see how many people identify them through the eyes of others, themselves. And then when all that goes away, when you have a transformation, like for me, I did it all at once. Wasn't planned, but I did it all at once. I got out of the industry that I was in, not just the job, but the industry I was in. Went out on my own, which is, I didn't even stay in a job where they hired me and gave me a W-2. I went out on my own. Okay. And then a few months later, I found out I had a brother, a younger brother, A few months later, I separated from my husband and all of that. And then at the end of the year, I found out I was biracial. So talk about a flip of my identity. So this has been a path of, okay, well, what did I love about the things that I did? And it's been a very hard path because the other day I had a lunch with somebody that I used to work with, and we sat down and and we had a great lunch, but I walked away going, ooh, that felt very different. That felt very uncertain. And what it was is that I'm so used to interacting in a certain way because of my identity of what it used to be. And now I don't do that. And so I had to sit down and go, okay, well, what did I like about what I used to be with that identity and that role? And what I've realized is that I get to take my identity. My job is the environment in which my identity displays itself. My relationships are the environment in which my identity displays itself. My role as a stepmom is an environment, a role in which my identity can display itself. But my identity is deep in me, and it's deep in you. That, I think, is a much more generous way to look at who you are as a being, rather than go, this is the role. I'm a mom. Okay, we know that, all right. You got your kids, I get that. What are you as a mom? Who are you as a mom? Who do you want to be as a mom? What color is that? I don't get to, work in the same environment, but I also, I left my husband and I separated. So it's like, what is that? What am I as a single woman? And that identity, well, that's just a role, but that doesn't mean I can't be, and I can't have interactions with people and still have relationships with people that have meaning, that are deep, in which I give and I listen and they give back to me. So when I leave an environment, I get to take those identities, that identity with me, and I get to find a new environment in which to display them. And I think for me, the last couple months, it's been really hard because some of the things that I love, that I used to make me feel good at work or in my relationship with my husband, those things are not there. I don't get to do them. I don't have a chance, right? I'm not in the same environment to display that. So what I found is that I get into a little bit of fear and go, oh, wait a minute, I must be doing something wrong. No, I'm not doing anything wrong at all. I just haven't found a new environment to display those. So I have to seek that out. So I've started to seek that out. I've started to have much more strategic conversations about people in my business. I've started to, the other morning, I got up really early because I do. Anybody who gets my mugshots know that I'm up by 6, and typically the dogs wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock. And so I read this. I love AI, and I've taken courses at MIT, and I still am studying it and interacting with people in it. And so I started reading white papers on it. And then I had a conversation earlier this week with someone about the white paper. So again, and we're going to actually have that on a podcast. But again, what I've realized is when you're making transition, okay, whether it be a job, whether it be your relationship or whatever, when you're making a transition, what happens to people is they have this identity. Not the relationship was an identity, but they got to display part of themselves that they love to display, and they got to have that active in that role. Okay? And then when they leave or move or transition and make a transition, it's like, well, I don't get to go display that anymore. So where is that outlet? Where is that new environment? Some people find new relationships. Some people find new jobs. Where is that you get to take what you loved about that and get to display it? But if you are always going, well, that environment is my identity, I don't think you're looking deep enough, and I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. And I know for me, when that job became my identity, my world got real small. My life got real small, and it got real into protecting it. Because if that's it, if you're tied to it, then it can't do anything. It can't grow. I mean, it is whatever it is. And then you're done. If it doesn't work out, you're screwed. But if you find out who you are in there, what about it? And I hate saying this to people, especially when I talk to business women, they just look at me all the time when I'm crazy, but what tickles your heart about it? Like what gets you, who are you in that environment? When are you knocking it out of the freaking park? Whether it is, one of my friends is a tutor. We'll have her on. And she is like it's so funny. She's a teacher with me. Like she's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I swear she's like, because I've watched her tutor her kids. She tutored college kids, and she tutored us like 7th graders, so it's like all over the place. But she gets in that tutor teacher voice with me. And it's really funny because it doesn't annoy me. But that's just who she is. And she has this thing about her, and it's great in a conversation. And she brings that out. So it's like, who are you? Who are you? What is your identity? And again, when I make that list, and people make that list to me, and we go through this exercise when I'm coaching, it is so amazing that me never shows up. My identity as self never shows up. It is everything around us. And it's like, okay, well, if all that goes away, what's left? What's left? Who are you?
Christine Spratley doesn't hide her life. She's real about it, warts and all. After leaving 29 plus years in corporate, she founded HBIC Advisors with one mission: be a fierce ally for women to stop waiting for permission to live boldly. If you want your audience to unapologetically run until apprehended toward fulfillment, Christine is your next podcast guest. Warning: may cause spontaneous HBIC badassery. Book her now at ChristineSpratley.com.
Who are you? Because, again, everything we have is borrowed, and it's all going to go away someday. But it doesn't mean you can't treasure your love or your children or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. But who are you in these roles on this stage? Who do you want to be on this stage? And that's when I talk about fulfillment, because sometimes I'm on a stage I don't even want to be on because it doesn't match my identity. And I think that is really powerful when you realize that you can walk off and you can take you with you. One thing I say, and Joe, we did this with my speaker reel, I think it's in there, is that whether I'm sitting in a boardroom, suit, or, looking good, my hair's done, my nails done, just looking strategic, like a businesswoman. And I'm going through my stuff, or I'm on, I'm doing some deal or something like that looks highfalutin. It's highfalutin. I don't think people say that anymore.
I feel like we should. It's right up there with shenanigans.
Shenanigans?
We should bring them back. So.
That and britches. Yeah. I say britches. You
pull up your britches. We're up to some highfalutin shenanigans around here.
I always say pull up your britches. Shit's getting deep, but that's usually because we have highfalutin shenanigans. I used to say that, and there's another one that I used to drive my husband nuts with saying stuff like that. Lordy Almighty, because my grandma used to say that. But what I think is really interesting is when you take all that away, and I'm looking all good, and I'm da 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 da, and then I go and I do speeches, and it's fuck fear. I still have the knowledge. I still have the years that I've worked in business. I still have all of that. Whether I'm wearing my Cindy, my Blondie shirt, or I'm in a business suit, I still have my identity, and I still have all of that stuff. It doesn't dissipate or go away, or I'm not less of. And I think people that, in my experience, that I've seen that are really strong in who they know who they are with their identity, they can be in any room or outside any room and be okay. They can be, wearing Louis Vuittons, or they can be in Skechers and be okay. And that is way more powerful. I mean, Joe, have you ever walked into or met somebody who you just know they're really solid in who they are?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, okay, now think about this. When you've met them, when you've maybe the first time, there's just this presence that they have.
Yeah, I agree. Or like a lack of anxiety.
Yeah.
Or a stress that everybody else is carrying.
That's exactly it. Because they're just okay. Like, they know that they're all right. I was talking with a person today, same person I was talking about budgets with, and he was talking about his daughter is getting ready to graduate, and some social anxiety going on. And I go, who doesn't have social anxiety? I don't care if you're a high school or senior or 30 years in business. We got some social anxiety, but there are people, and I have less of it when I know who I am. Because then I know I'm in this environment, and I'm who I am. There's no need for me to perform. There's no need to be more or less because I know where I fit, because I know who I am. So we're going to do this, and we're going to go through a couple segments on identity. But there's the 3 columns, okay? Start with the 3 columns. Label. What are your labels? What are your roles? What environments do you categorize yourself? What's your identity? And then column 2, for each of those, write a bunch of what you do. What are the actions that you do? And it can be long, especially for moms. Moms working and all that other stuff. And, dads too. But what is your day-to-day? And then look at that and go, what do you love about in your column 3? What are your vibes about column 2? What do you love? And what do you hate? Why do you hate it? But come out of that understanding that what you love and that spice that you add to that recipe, you can take that and go other places and have other stages and have other roles. You don't lose who you are when you lose a stage or you lose a role. You get to change different things about you, but you also get to take what you love and go find a different stage where you can perform and be who you are. This has been a really living kind of thing for me, real time. And it's also been really interesting to coach people through this. And then I have another group of women that we all kind of coach each other through different transitions and stuff. And identity is a big thing. And when I lose kind of my sense of identity, then I start going, I need to grasp that, or I have doubt about this, so I need to get this job, or it's that, like you say, Joe, it's that anxiety. I can't be in the gray. And what I've learned for me is most of life is in the gray, and the fun's in the gray. And part of that's just me being ornery, because I like being in the gray. I think people don't use ornery enough either.
Yeah.
But ladies, gentlemen, what's your identity? Not what anybody else around you's told you, but if it all went away today, what's your identity? Who are you? Find out. Find out. And then in the next few segments, we're going to talk about changing that identity and also changing the stages in which you have the environments to display those identities. And we're going to have some guests in as well. So until next time, Tubbs.
Thanks for tuning in to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, tell her what topics you want to hear, and share this episode with someone who could use a pantry full of boldness in their life. Remember, life isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell. So show up, take action, and keep saying fear.